Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dream Team Tonic podcast, episode number 93. I'm Tony, and with me, as usual, every week, is Ben. You there, mate?
Hello.
Good evening. James, are you there?
Oh, Ben. Yes, I'm here.
And a special guest, we always love having him on. It's Andy Barnett. Are you there, mate?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for having me on again, gents.
Our pleasure, mate. Our pleasure. Seeing as you're the guest, Andy, you get to go first, mate. Let's have a run through your team and see how you've been getting on this season.
Yeah, okay. So, my team. This is a team that's doing the best. It's obviously not the best score because I'm having a bit of a mare this season, but he's starting to get better. So, in goal, I've got De Gea, 0 points this week. Trippier in defence, 5 points he's got. Shaw and Varane from Manchester United, they got 0 points. And Byrne from Newcastle, he got 8 points this weekend. In midfield, I've got Almiron, he's got me 3 points. Odegaard's got me 8 points for Arsenal. Mahrez didn't pick up anything this weekend against Man U, and neither did Haaland, both on 0 points. Completing the strike force is Salah, big fat 0 again, and Rashford, 13 points. Total of 37 points this week, and a total score of 1,127 for, well, it's only just slightly gone my second best performing team now, but this is the one that I have my main focus on.
Yeah. What have you done with your transfers so far?
My transfers, well, basically, I've only got one transfer left this month. The other 4, I didn't really want to use any this early this month, but I had to sort out the shit show that was Leicester last month. They did really well to start off with, but then the sun messed up for some reason, and I had to leave them in, and it caused havoc with plans that I'd actually made to try and sort things out. But I suppose it teaches me a lesson to try and be cute and get a quick gain when there were cup games on. So yeah, I got stung by that one. So yeah, I ended up at the end of the month after using all my transfers to do different transfers for what I was going to do because I had to sort out the mess that had been created. And then at the beginning of this month, I took out Prudence for Wolves, put Varane in for Manchester United, took Cancelo out and put Mahrez in for Man City, took Kulusevski out, who was injured at the time, and put Bernardo Silva for Man City. And Bernardo Silva I've just taken out to put Dan Burn in because obviously Newcastle show no signs of stopping that clean sheet train that they've started. So I only had one, which was Trippier in. I decided to increase my Newcastle contingent to try and limit any damage that's made in the mini leagues that you're in. But yeah, that's the transfer so far. I've only got one left. However, the players that are in my side now, I personally feel that they're worthy of staying in there. So hopefully I can keep that one transfer till the end of the month to try and sort, like something going into February.
Yep, decent. I'm sure we'll touch on Salah within the questions later on. Ben, how have you got on this week, mate?
I got 42 points this week. I've got De Gea in goal, 0 point. Maguire came off the bench with 2 minutes to go, got a 0 point. Yeah, so happy days. Couldn't move him out then, could I? Share 13 points, Starman. Trippier somehow only got 5 points. De Bruyne 2 points for assists. Almiron and Joe Linton 3 points. Joe Linton done me a blinder in midweek though, didn't he?
He did.
Or did he get 15 points?
Yeah, he's been a cracking little
little
differential there that you put in.
Yeah. And Mahrez, nothing. Rashford 13 points, Kane 3 points, and Haaland nothing. Still got 4 transfers left. Didn't see any opportunities really. Could have maybe moved Maguire on, but I was hoping he stayed on the bench and
Yeah.
didn't come on, but he did. So hopefully he plays against Palace and then he can redeem himself, get me a clean sheet.
Yeah. Good. James, over to you, mate.
Smashing it still, Tony. I don't know what's happened. 61 points so far. Doing well since the start of the season, since the restart.
Yeah.
The Newcastle block is obviously helping. Trippier, Sarr, Botman, Byrne, all returning. De Gea in goal, nothing. In midfield, Mahrez hasn't got anything this week so far. Almer on 3, Odegaard 8. Quite pleased I kept Odegaard. Up front, 13 points from Rashford, 0 from Haaland, and 3 from Kane. So yeah, it's doing well at the moment. 5 transfers left as well.
Oh, very good.
You're going to be spoiled, aren't you? You're not going to want to be making any.
Well, I'm thinking I might save them for the end of the month. I might possibly take a gamble, move off the Newcastle back line, although they keep racking up those points. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. Arsenal still have they don't start Europe until March, but they still have 5 fixtures in February, so that could be a play. Maybe getting the likes of Saka back in there with the last set with the transfers on that last Thursday of the month. But I'm not in any rush to make any changes. Well, I'm still thinking about that.
Yep. Looking good. Looking good, mate. The train keeps on chugging since the restart.
It does.
My side, not quite as good as you lads this week. 32 points only. De Gea 0, Wan-Bissaka 3 points, played well. Byrne 8 points, Trippier 5 points, De Bruyne 2 points, Fernandes 8 points, Almiron 3 points, Foden 0, Kane 3 points, Haaland 0 points, and the man that's holding this team back because I couldn't quite afford Rashford, Martial, who went off injured I think at half time as well. So yeah, that's the only thing that I need to get sorted in this team. Really, is Martial. Fernandes.
Sorry, I was just going to say, are you going to bring in Rashford this week, or you?
Well, I think I'm going to try to. I did have penciled in at one point Fernandes and Martial to Rashford, and I can't think who I had in. So I'm basically using the funds from Fernandes to fund Martial to Rashford, and I decided against it with a double header for Martial. I thought he would just do me. I just leave it. Obviously, that cost me 13 points, and I've got an injured player who probably won't play midweek. But hey ho.
Are you not tempted to get rid of Foden? He's just not doing it, is he? I know you love him, but you know.
I know they're all right, City. They look toothless, weirdly. They really did look like they didn't create much at all. I don't know whether that was down to United playing well, defending well, or just City not having much idea. But I think we'll all agree that goal was a disgusting decision.
The last goal.
I cannot believe it was given.
It was ridiculous. I'm not interfering with play. I'm just shielding the ball. So that no one else can touch it. I'm not interfering with play, though.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Absolute bollocks. I don't care what the law says and all that crap. It's never been interpreted that way. That is usually... I don't think I've ever seen a worse decision. It is just scandalous. But...
They've made,
he wasn't even accidentally shielding the ball, was he? He had his arms out to stop players from getting into it until Bruno Fernandes came chugging through.
At one point, he looked like he did a step over. It's like he was floating his leg around the ball as if he were going to touch it. He looked like he did a step over. Yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah, they should have just stuck with the on-field decision. He were offside. I think they bowed to the pressure of Fernandes screaming at the linesman and pleading his case. But yeah, turned the game on its head.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not complaining. They have Fernandes in most of my teams, so you know what I mean. You're a nice 8 points, but
They have made a rod for the back with this rule, like not interfering with play. There's been a few goals in the last few weeks where players have been. I think Salah scored one as well, where he was in an offside position,
yeah,
or someone was in an offside
yeah,
position. I can't remember the
that
goal
was a
now.
crazy decision as well.
Yeah, but it's like before, if you was offside, you was offside. Now they've made it complicated, so the referees have to interpret it their own way. Like it's not obvious anymore. It's complicated. Need to go back to the old offside rule, I think.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There were a few examples of that goal that got stood for Salah when he basically knocked the ball over and the defender's got a slight touch on the head and it's still gone to Salah. I mean, once that ball's kicked, Salah's offside. Before it hits that defender, he's offside. Doesn't matter about first phase, second phase, or it's deflected off a defender. Once that ball's kicked, it's like the first decision is offside. So that's what they should go with. And then it's like with the Fernandes goal, I think it was it Akanji who were chasing him back, chasing Rashford.
Yeah.
If Akanji had just gone straight through the back of Rashford, he'd have probably got a red card. But then they'd have overturned it because they'd have said, well, he was offside. All he needed to do was boot for Rashford to the ground. They'd have given him a red card, sent him off. Then they'd have reviewed it on VAR and said, well, actually, the first offence is offside. So the red card's rescinded. And basically it's a free kick to Man City. So by not touching Rashford, it's just things like that. It's a mess. Like I say, leaving it open to interpretation. You're leaving it open to a lack of consistency through refs and games and the decisions. Well,
You say that, but I don't know. I've not seen many people say they didn't think that shouldn't have been chalked off. All the pundits were saying that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I get your point. There is interpretation there, and that's where it's fallen down.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, who interprets it that way? Who interprets that situation that way? The VAR referee, read Michael Oliver on VAR. I think it was.
Not sure.
And the on-pitch referee, between them both, they've decided that is the way. I can't believe it. Shocking. Anyway, let's jump into the listener questions. Tom has been on the Discord. Are we putting too much stock in Salah's dream team history? Liverpool are rotten and he takes up a huge chunk of budget that could be better spent elsewhere. James, you know I'm coming to you first for that one.
I thought you might.
He's been a bit of a problem, isn't he?
I think if Liverpool fail to beat Wolves on Tuesday, I will be moving off the only Liverpool player I have in any of my teams, which is Salah. Unless, of course, there are rearrangements, I might reconsider. But Liverpool don't look good. I'll be the first to admit that. And if they've only got I think at the moment they've only got 2 games for the rest of the month. Was it 3 potentially? That their fixture volume's not there. It's a great excuse to get off them. They're not performing. I wouldn't be sticking with him just because of his previous history.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, like you just said, basically, they haven't got the fixture count, but there is a possibility of Chelsea's. They've got a game with Chelsea to be rearranged. So during the FA Cup 4th round, they could play there. But still, it's a tough match, isn't it, Chelsea? We've got Chelsea again next week. So there'll be Chelsea and then Chelsea again. So I can't see that happening, to tell you the truth. Like we all mentioned it, I think we mentioned it last week on the podcast. was it on the live Q&A? We were saying about the Premier League don't like to put two fixtures back to back of the same two teams. So yeah, so if they don't get a game on that weekend, then it's definitely jump off. But Salah's not in most of my teams now. He's like my fourth choice at the moment. So at the moment, yeah, definitely you could move off him. But I still have him in your thoughts because he can just turn it on and score 15 points out the blue.
Yeah.
It's just that's just sort of player he is. Scary not having him. He like I've said before, he ruined me when he had that Rangers game, and I didn't have him in my team. He was on a bad run then, wasn't he? And then he came good again. And he scored a few 13 pointers, 23s, 15 pointers, and now he's fourth highest scoring player on the whole game. So he's still ticking along, even though Liverpool aren't doing so well.
Yeah.
What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, funny you should say that, Ben. That's something that I thought about when I actually read that question. So what I decided to do was I decided to just have a little deep dive into the strikers' stats. So first and foremost, when you look at like Haaland, Rashford, Salah, Kane, you look at the total score on the year. They're sort of like first, third, fourth. First, third, and fourth, aren't they? And Kane's fifth overall. Now, the total scores, if you take Haaland out and you look at the actual total scores for half a season, it's like Rashford, for instance, is on 156, Salah's on 149. Now, it's only half a season that's gone now. And if you double that, that's 300 points. So any player that gets 300 points for you on the season, you'd expect them to be somewhere in the 7 million. Do you know, like at the beginning of the season, the highest scoring points. So not just looking at the total scores, I just thought, form is a very important part as well of making decisions of how you're going to go going forward. So the best point to actually take the form from was from when we've come back from the World Cup, which was week 15 in the Dream Team. So from week 15 to now, most of the teams have had like six or seven games. Some have had 5. And it's surprising what it's come up with. Now, Salah has scored 31 points in the last 4 game weeks. He's had a total of 6 games and he's scored an average of 5.2 points per game. Now, that's not necessarily that bad. He's still scoring an average of 5.2 goals per game. If you look at Haaland, he's played 6 games. He's actually scored 30 points and he's an average of 5 points a game. So Haaland is being outscored by Salah at the moment. And then you've got Kane. Spurs don't seem to be doing much, but I know Kane scored a few goals. He scored 42 points. 5 games he's played. And these games that I know Spurs have played more games, it just depends on, if they don't actually get onto the pitch, I don't class it as a game for them, for that individual player. So that's the reason why some of them have got 5 or what have you. He's scoring an average of 8.4 points per game. And then you've got Rashford, who seems to be the cream of the crop at the moment. He's played 7 games since the restart and he's scoring an average of 10.6 points per game and on 74 points. So looking at those figures, Salah isn't the worst. It's Haaland that's the worst. And, a lot of people are thinking, is it time to put Kane in for Salah in for Kane? Going on these figures, Haaland's the worst out of those premium strikers that we were just talking about. However, because Haaland is so highly owned, nobody wants to take him out because as soon as he does score, and we know that he will do, then it's a big problem for you because everybody else is overtaking you then. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on the Salah thing. I just don't think you need to be in a rush to take him out just yet while he's still scoring okay.
Yeah, good stats there, Andy. Like you say, I think Salah was the scapegoat and the one that were dropping out much because of the fixture count, I'd say. But like when you put it like that, and if you start to even the games up, and Haaland carries on going on through a bit of a barren run, it'd be an interesting decision. But Spurs again looked toothless is a word. I know Arsenal are playing very well, and they're a very good side, but yeah, it's just every time I watch Spurs, it just seems to be the same crap each time. It's very lackluster, not much going on. They go behind, and then they have a bit of a spurt, and then yeah, they just flatter to deceive. It's just a little bit poor from them. But I don't actually own Mo Salah in one of my sides, which earlier on in the season it worked. A bit of a slow start, and then he like Ben said about the Rangers game burning a few people. That caught me out as well. But then I did put him back in the side, and then now I've got mostly Harry Kane's, and obviously Rashford coming through. He's the man at the minute. He's completely cemented his spot. I think he's a must-have. Obviously scoring in Starman against City, so he's proven his fixture proof as well. He is a man on fire. So long may that continue. But yeah, Salah's such a dangerous player when he's on form, and he's not really hit any form this season, I would say. I think that's fair to say. He's not had a really good patch, but he's still the 4 or 5 scorer on the game. I think that says a lot. So, yeah, ignore him at your peril. Right, an interesting question here from Dino, who's gone from managing just one dream team to 10 dream teams this year. Obviously been part of the Discord. We always say maximise your chances, get all 10 teams in. He says he's been struggling with a busy life and fantasy football, trying to balance it. He knows he's not going to be able to turn it around this year, but he wants to set himself up with good habits for next year. How do you make sure you don't forget to make transfers on Thursdays? What are your generally methods for setting time aside for your dream team? And can you help me be more organised and prepared? Any help and tips would be appreciated, no matter how small. Cheers, guys. Go on, James, what do you reckon?
Well, it's definitely a challenge managing 10 teams. I've thought about the merits of reducing the number of teams. I know certain, players like Fergie this year have only gone for 5 because there is an extra headspace required to do all 10. But then I think back to last season when I had a Spurs block in one of my sides, and I'm not sure I would have done that if I didn't have 10 teams. And that's what set me up for my my highest ever finish, basically. So the Spurs got 3 or 4 clean sheets on the bounce, and then I quickly moved off them as I realised they were quite lucky to do that. So I think if you want to be serious about winning it, I think 10 teams is important. But I get where he's coming from. It is difficult, especially when, like myself this year, I've only just killed off 2 teams, and what I've done is I've renamed them Dead 1 and Dead 2. And I'm not going to touch them again. I'm not even going to look at them, because there does become a point in the season where you have to cull those teams down. So that, I probably left it a bit too late to do that. I could have done that a bit sooner. So yeah, whittle those teams down when you can. Obviously, don't get rid of them if there's still a chance that they could overtake some of your other ones. But a quarter of the way into the season, you probably should look at your teams and start culling a few. And I think my number one tip would be listen to the podcast early in the week if you can, and then that'll give you the headspace to be able to think about things before that Wednesday, Thursday, when you really need to be nailing those plans. But if on Wednesday, Thursday you've got a rough plan in your head, then when it comes to that sort of those last games on the Thursday evening, you'll have already thought it through, and you'll be able to go, yeah, that Arsenal player played or whatever on a Thursday night, I'm going to bring him in. And the other thing that I quite often do is set an alarm to remind myself to do transfers. But being part of Dream Team Tonic, Dream Team's rarely far from my thoughts, but that's certainly something I certainly have to do that for the FPL deadlines these days. So yeah, that would be my tips. What do you reckon, chaps?
Andy?
Yeah, Dino. Just like James said, that's one of the things. On my phone, I've got an alarm that goes off once a week, every week, and it's at 10 o'clock on a Thursday evening. And it's just basically when I look at my phone when it goes off, it says transfers, basically. It's all about preparation, I think. I'm doing the same thing that you're actually doing, but I'm probably a little bit ahead of you because last year was the first year that I actually went in with 10 teams. And I've actually been playing Dream Team since 1996, which is a long time ago. But I've my ears have only just perked up from last season, basically, and the back end of the season before. So yeah, another thing that you could do, you always be aware of the fixture counts and suspensions and injuries and stuff like that. The way that I do that is on my PC, I'll just go onto my favourites. I've got like a football folder on the favourites bar, and it's certain pages of different websites, whether it's the injuries website, the BBC sport fixtures, for football and stuff like that, FF stuff, which is a wonderful website as well. Just basically go onto those sites, keep yourself aware of what's going on, make a plan and stick to it, providing that there's no injuries and stuff like that. Because you can, if you don't stick to your plan, it kind of spirals out of control and you start doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Choose a podcast to listen to and listen to it before making your decisions. So just like James said, try and listen to it as early on in the week as possible. Because what you'll find is when you're listening to the experts, which are the other three guys that are on this pod, speaking, and you listen to some of the questions, it sort of like gives you a lot of food for thought with regards to the upcoming week and the upcoming month, and it will sort of like calm your mind and help you focus on what you need to do. One more thing that I do now, because I've also been introduced to different fantasy football formats, whereas I used to only do the Sun. But it just works with, if you do have 10 teams. I have made a WhatsApp chat just with myself. So I've put my wife in it and then deleted her from the conversation. And I have one WhatsApp chat just called Sun Dream Team. So...
You know what the first sign of madness is, Andy?
However, there's method behind the madness. So what I do is if I've got like 4 or 5 teams, it can be difficult to keep a track of what's going on in each team. So what I will do, there'll be certain dates like on the 17th of June, for instance. I know football's not being played then, but I'm just using it as an example. On the 17th of June, take out Salah for Kane, for instance. And you just put dates down and things that you're supposed to be doing and with the actual team name. So if at least once a week you go onto that chat, you'll see stuff that you've put down for further forward, because there's a lot of information that you take in with regards to fantasy football. And because of the amount of information, it's easy to forget stuff. So if there is something that's really important and it's something that's date orientated, I would put it in the chat. So then when I go onto the chat and have a quick look, I'm reminded of certain things on certain dates. And it just helps you sort of like with your plans. So yeah, that's what I do. And maybe that's something that you might find interesting that you might want to do as well, Dino.
Yeah, good stuff, Andy. Reckon Ben?
I think the boys covered it pretty well there. Just a couple of things to add. Really, you've got to get yourself on the Discord a bit more often, Dino. I don't see you on there that often, especially on a Thursday. If you've got any queries with your transfers, put them in the transfer suggestions, and I'm sure all the lads in there will help you with your transfer problems. Also, dedication. You've got to dedicate a lot of time to your team if you want to be successful. And it can be hard if you're out with your family and you work and that. You've just got to set time aside, especially when there's matches going on the weekend. You've got to try and look at the lineups and see if there's a player that you've had your eye on is definitely playing, and that you've got to make sure you can get him in your team. So I've been out with the missus before, and I'm like, I've got to do transfers,
Yeah.
and she's like, not again. So
Bloody
I'm like, so
football.
don't talk to me for an hour. I'm doing transfers and only 10 teams. He loves it. Also, like you saying about the WhatsApp group, you could use your notebook on your phone or get yourself a little notepad and write down ideas you've got for the coming week or transfers for certain dates. Write them in your book and then keep referring back to it. And obviously, like they said as well with the alarms, set your alarm for a Thursday night. That's an important one if you want to get the price rises. I think I can't think of anything else. What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I think the alarms. I've got alarms in big capitals here. Obviously, alarm
Yeah.
for your transfers on your Thursday. Make sure you don't miss any price rises. Because if you miss that deadline and the price rises go against you in that morning, it could cost you a player. It could cost you a player that you wanted. So it's very, very important. Like I say, just watching a lot of football is always a good idea. I try to watch as many games as I can. It's not a strenuous task having a few beers and watching the football, but it's the eye test does go a long way. Alarms for the lineups is big. Like I said, Ben says about you're out with your family and stuff, but sometimes it's not for every lineup. But if you've got a plan that week and you've pinpointed a day, like I might be making this transfer, I might want to bring this player in, or if this player isn't starting, I need to take him out. Then just put an alarm in your phone for an hour before the kickoff. Get that line up and make your decision. Make the decision. Either move the player on, leave him in, whatever it might be, and then put your phone away. And you can be more. You can be pretty. What's the word? Lost the word. Basically, you don't have to take too much time to do it. If you're a bit organised beforehand. Andy's suggestion, like he says, with the WhatsApp group and making notes on players. When you're listening to the podcast, jot down notes what we're saying about fixture quantities, qualities, and just make little notes that. So then, when it comes to making your decisions and doing it, it's not that time consuming. You've listened to the pod once, you've made the notes that you need out of it, and then just attack them little areas that you're going to do. So you'll be more efficient. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for. Discord. It's there for help. There's a lot of very, very good managers. There's not just us lads on this podcast that are good managers. There's a lot of good managers in that Discord, and they're very open. They're very willing to give you help on any dilemmas you've got. Don't be shy of getting it in there and asking for a little bit of help, even if it's just between deciding two players. Who would you put in? I'm sure you'll get some good, well-rounded answers as always. Cheers for that question. It's a good question, that, Dino. Hopefully, you can turn it around a little bit this season, and especially when you're looking to plan for next season, get in that Discord early as soon as the game's released and see what people are planning as it comes towards setting your teams up for the season, and that hopefully give you a little bit of a bump at the start. Onwards, Lee Hooper. Is Casemiro an option going forward at 3.3 mil? he's done a bit of research and he blanked in his first 6 games at United. But since then, in 19 games, he's got a 7 rating in 14 of those, a 6.9 rating in 3 games, and a poor rating just twice. Looks like one of the most informed players in the world right now, and getting a minimum of 3 points a game should keep happening very regularly. Has anyone thought about Casemiro? Ben, you like a differential, mate?
Yeah, I've had a look at him, but like short term, he could be an option, but you're gonna want him out again pretty soon. I think 3.3 is probably a bit too dear now for him. He was a bit cheaper before. He was like 2.6 at one point, and he was a good option. He's gone up now, so he's in the same league as players like Odegaard, Almiron, McAllister. It could be an option as well at one point when Brighton get these fixtures rearranged, so they could have a bit of a fixture pile up. But yeah, you've got players that are playing a similar role, haven't you? Like Xhaka, he's 2.3 million. Højbjerg's 3.5 million. He's been doing a similar thing. Eriksen's 3.3 million. So yeah, I don't know. I probably wouldn't go there now. Probably better just getting on the Odegaard train now. I know there's less fixtures for Arsenal. It's a 4-for-2 at the minute, I think, for United. But you're going to want to get on Odegaard again anyway. So probably better just to go there straight away.
Yeah. Andy?
Yeah, touching on what Ben just said there, getting on the Odegaard train. There are other players that are sort of like similar value. It is good to point out that he is getting his ratings very regularly. So he is the type of player that you want to get in if your regular players aren't scoring. So if you've got like the template players that everybody's got, if they're not scoring, unfortunately all the template players are now, you obviously it doesn't really matter if he's getting 3 points a game because there's people that are outscoring him. Now, Casemiro, since the World Cup, he's averaging 4.1 games on a spread of 7 games. 4.1 points per game, sorry. Odegaard is averaging 8.5 points per game on the 4 games that he's played. So, yeah, he's more than doubling Casemiro. So when Ben said, yeah, there's a 4-for-2 over the next few games, it probably still would be better having Odegaard in for the half the number of games that he's going to be playing. Plus, Odegaard is, well, Casemiro's nailed as well anyway. But yeah, you've got March, Odegaard, Mahrez, Fernandes. I know Mahrez and Fernandes are a lot more than Odegaard, but March isn't. They're doing better form-wise than Casemiro. It's a good point on consistency, though. But at the moment, I would probably look at others that are of a similar value that are getting good returns, and there is quite a few players that are getting good returns at the moment.
Yeah.
Also, just to add, maybe if you're in James's position where you've got 5 transfers, you could probably go for Casemiro a little for those 2 game weeks, and then move on to Odegaard because of the difficulty of the 2 fixtures, Man United and Man City. But Arsenal are on good form, so they could win both games as well. So it's your appetite for a little punt on Casemiro, really.
We all know about Lee's appetite for punts. Do we want to be recommending more punts?
Yeah, probably.
Talking of punts, what about that Garnacho lad at United? He looks a little live wire, doesn't he?
He'd be all right.
He's being brought on fairly regular.
Games, though.
Maybe the Martial injury.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought it was funny in the Discord when the match was going on. Everyone were effing and blinding when it looked like Rashford were coming off at just before half time. And then all of a sudden it's, yay, Rashford! You've got Rashford captain, when he gets his goal later on. But yeah, it's really funny how everybody can be so down and then so elated, like a few moments later.
That's
I
it.
think
Martial that went
Baz was
up.
happy to see Rashford again, weren't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
See Rashford. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Here's a punt. Wadey, is Leno an option in goal? The man seems to be getting so many ratings and star bands. Obviously, it's Fulham, so you can't expect it every week. Plus, there's no Europe. But 3.1 mil is a good price. Or would you stick it out with De Gea or Pope? What do you reckon, Andy?
Okay, yeah, I've had a look at this question. 3-star men in 18 games, but Leno, from those 3-star men in 18 games, he's got 47 points in total. I don't personally think he's an option, and this is the reason why. You've got two other keepers that people probably don't think much of at the moment either. You've got Kepa, who's less money, 2.9 million. He's started 17 games. He's played in 17 games, and he's only had 1-star man. However, he's amassed 15 points more, or 62 points in total over the season. And then you've got Henderson from Nottingham Forest. Nobody fancies them either. He's also got 3-star men, but he's played 2 extra games, so he's had 20 games instead of 18. And he's 2.7 million, so 0.4 million less. And he scored a total of 60 points, so he scored 13 points more than Leno. So, yeah, I think what you're possibly doing, Wadey, is you're probably looking at a few games in isolation which might be close together and thinking, oh, wow, this is the next big scoring sensation. But when you look at the bare bones of it, there are other players that are in lesser teams, as well as players that are in teams that have got the potential to keep a lot of clean sheets, such as Chelsea, if they get their act together, and they're actually less money. So, yeah, you can spend your money better elsewhere, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah, he's not an option for me. I've not even thought about really because now we're coming up to February. We want to start getting extra fixtures and obviously start looking at European goalkeepers. That's one of the reasons I put De Gea in and start with because he was cheap at was he like 2.9 or 3 million or something at the start of the end of the World Cup. So
Yeah, a good price.
yeah, he was a great price. So no, there's other keepers around there that are cheaper if you wanted to do that. Andy just named some. You got David Raya as well, 2.3. Sanchez 2.2. If you were looking for an enabler, so no, he's not an option for me.
Yeah, James.
Leno Wadey, I would say. Too expensive at 3.1. Doesn't play in Europe. He did mention that. But there are players with a better points per million that are cheaper than that. If you're going to go for a non-European keeper, I would steer clear personally.
Yeah, I think you all covered it pretty well there. I wouldn't be going for Leno either. There's probably 3 or 4 better options, possibly at a cheaper price as well, of the names mentioned. It's a lot of these questions are on punts, aren't they, Tomo? Almiron to Solly March. Talk to me. Ben?
I reckon Andy's got a good answer for this. Go on, Andy.
Well, looking at that question, it sounds a little bit like, what's he called? Terry Tibbs off Phone Jacker? Almiron to Solly March. Talk to me. Well, at the moment, what's not to like? The form's good. The price is excellent. And also, he's going to be getting a rise as well. He plays in attack, does Solly March. And Brighton are getting great results at the moment. The last time that Solly March didn't make the pitch for Brighton as well was in game week 3. So yeah, I do think that it's a good idea if that's what you wanted to do. I know, obviously, people are probably thinking, oh, well, it's Almiron, he's playing for Newcastle, he's doing really well. This is where I've gone into the form since we've come back from the World Cup. Almiron's scored 15 points in 7 games, so he's averaging 2.1 points per game, whereas Solly March, he's scored 52 points in 6 games, and he's averaging 8.7 points per game. So Brighton's form is on the increase, whereas I'm not talking about Newcastle because their form is good, but Almiron is still getting his minutes on the pitch. He's playing more or less every game. It's just that his output has dipped alarmingly, and he's only getting 2.1 points per game on average. So, yes, it'd be a yes for me. And I've got him in my side, and I need to get him out as well. So, March could be one of the ones that I'd be looking at, depending on the funds that I've got available anyway.
Yeah. James?
At 2.3 million, I don't think it's a crazy move. He's certainly banging form. There's no doubt about that. And Brighton are looking good. Sadly, I might say, better than Liverpool anyway. Yeah. So the only problem is, of course, when the European fixtures come round, it's a transfer waiting to happen, as they say. But if you need the funds short term to ride the wave, possibly get a few price rises, I'm not totally against it. Not at 2.3 million, and with the form that he's in.
Yeah. Ben?
I personally wouldn't do it if I was on Almiron. I wouldn't move to Solly March just because of the fixtures. Newcastle have got Palace, Southampton, and then Southampton in the double header of the Carabao Cup. They've still got extra game over Brighton unless they get them games rearranged that we've been on about against Bournemouth and Palace. Then Brighton, we're talking about Brighton. Then for me. This is so annoying for me because I had Solly March in a couple of teams earlier in the season. He got a couple of assists, and I thought, wow, this could be an enabler. He was like 1.7 or something. So I put him in at the start at I don't know, 10, 12 games into the season, and he did nothing. And then I was like, all right, I'll get back off him. And then he's like, new managers playing him in the front three, and he's scoring for fun. Has he got 3-star mans in the last 5 games or something? Daft.
Yeah.
Unreal.
He's hit a purple patch, hasn't he?
Yeah, he didn't score a goal before the World Cup, and now he's got 4 goals since the World Cup.
Yeah, I think it was no goal in 58 games or something crazy like
Yeah.
that, wasn't it? And then,
So is this just a bit of a blip, or is he going to carry it on?
Well, the new manager fancies him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Likes him. So
I prefer Mitoma, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he looked brilliant. He looked absolutely brilliant again.
Is he 1.8 million?
2.4 now.
2.4 now, bloody hell.
He's had back-to-back rises.
I think I bought him at 1.8.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't looked. Yeah, there's so many great price players in the Brighton team now. Like, if you're looking for enablers, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Nice 20 points for Solly March. Can see the attraction.
Yeah.
It would obviously depend who you were taking out for him. If it was Almiron, as you say, would I do that? Tricky one. If Brighton get those 2 fixtures rearranged, the Bournemouth and the Palace, it'd give them less to Bournemouth, Palace, Bournemouth, which isn't too shoddy. A couple of games against Bournemouth. With the way Brighton played against Liverpool, if they bring that to pitch every week, they're going to be putting a lot of teams to the sword and playing in the front 3. Almiron slowing down a little bit, maybe, unless we're just being harsh. It could go either way. That it could be a good move. It could be turned into a disaster. But like Ben said, I like Mitoma. I think maybe March has just hit a little bit of a little purple patch that could end at any moment. And I think Matoma's quality. I don't believe he didn't get that assist, by the way.
No, he didn't.
And he didn't even get a rating.
I know.
It doesn't bode well for him. But yeah, if he gets that assist, he gets the rating as well. It's 5 points they lost. Bit of a, almost as bad as that Rashford offside decision. Yeah, a lot of good assets from Brighton. Wouldn't talk anybody out of bringing any Brighton players in, really. Just keep your eye on that fixture quantity. If you've got plenty of transfers and you've got enough, like in a lot of my sides, I haven't seen any opportunities really at the minute. So I've got about five or four in all my teams. Apart from, I did create a dead team at the bottom of the league. My lowest scoring team, it's now a full Leicester team. And he scored 0 points this week. So my second team that I'm going to kill off, I'm going to bring in all Liverpool players. Because they're nice and cheap now, aren't they? Yeah, Solly March. Yeah, lovely finishes as well, by the way. Great goals. Patrick Bryson. A more football-related question here. Almost halfway through the season and teams closer than ever. Who wins the Premier League and why? James.
Well, I think it's Arsenal's to lose, really. As long as they don't suffer any injuries to key players, I think they can do it. City don't look quite as good as normal, although you wouldn't be surprised if they bounce back. I don't think you can rule. I mean, I thought it was 8 points City behind. Man United are 9 points behind. I don't think you can rule. If you're going to conclude City, I don't think you can disclude Man United as well. I don't think there's any other contenders, though. I think it's Arsenal's to lose.
Connor will be upset that you've not mentioned the other United. What do you reckon, Andy?
Well, I more or less echo what James has just said. It's Arsenal's to lose as far as I'm concerned. The thing is, they've played Newcastle. They got a 0-0 draw, and they've obviously they've won the last game against Spurs. Now they've got Manchester United next, and then 3 games later they've got Man City. And if they can afford defeat in those two, I can't see them getting caught personally, even by Man City. Liverpool and Chelsea are the only other 2 sides that that have got the pedigree to obviously be able to put a run together. But if you look at Liverpool now, they're already far too far behind. This is 19 points they're behind Arsenal now, and Chelsea are below Liverpool. Sorry.
No chance, mate. We're
no
not
chance
do it this year.
So the only team that I think could possibly overtake Arsenal at this point, going on how well Arsenal have been playing all season, and everybody's expecting it to sort of like slack off, but they're showing no signs of slacking off, just like Newcastle are showing no signs of slacking off and letting a bloody goal in. So yeah, I just think Arsenal are probably the team to beat, and I think that they probably will win. If they don't lose to City when they play them in a few games' time, I can probably see them winning the Premier League.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how they get on against Man City. They've got them in the FA Cup, haven't they, first, and then they play them away in the league. Yeah, you've got to say Arsenal now, haven't you? But don't discount Man City going on a 12-game winning streak, catching up. But yeah, Arsenal look the favourites now. Did you see on Twitter, FPL Salah put a thing on the percentages of or the odds of who's going to win? I think I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something like 55% Arsenal, and then it was like 30 something percent Man City, and then like United was only Man United only 5% chance of winning it, and Newcastle 2% chance. I don't know if that adds up for 100%, but
Well, I mean,
I'm just
any
like
other-
going off the top of my head. But yeah. So it looks like Arsenal now, doesn't it?
Yeah, injuries. They don't have the biggest squad, I don't think,
Good point.
and they've got a few key players that, like say Saka. If they lost Saka on that right hand side, and Nketiah's come in and done a job through middle without ripping up too many trees. Like Partey and Xhaka in the middle of that midfield are so pivotal to their form and how they've improved this season. They've got a really good understanding middle of there. I think if they lose one of them, there could be a few shaky moments ahead. But definitely, with the way they're playing, it's like I say, it's theirs to lose. And so far this season, other than Brighton, who have really impressed me on a few occasions, I think Arsenal playing some of the best football. Arteta's got them really well oiled. Yeah, they deserve it if they win it. In all honesty, City just haven't been at the races for a while now. United are improving under Tonic, but it's probably a little bit too far this season, maybe. But they're one to watch for next season. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But Arsenal for me, if they can stay clear of injuries. So we've got a few questions here that are all covering a very similar topic. Kyle Gavigan and Mgu asking about the Newcastle block defence and what block defence to aim for. Obviously, with the European games around the corner, and David 87, what to do if you've only got one Newcastle defender? The block is ripping it up, but he's cautious to jump onto the Newcastle block with Europe on the horizon. So all very similar. So what's the best attack in defence, Ben?
What? You caught me out there when you said, "What's the best attack in defence?"
What's the best way of attacking it with your defence?
Well, obviously, one of the best ways is fixture count. With Man United, they have 10 guaranteed games until the end of February. That's 3 more than Newcastle at the moment. Obviously, Newcastle can win their Carabao Cup semi-finals and then go play an extra game. Man United are still in the FA Cup, so they'll probably get another game. Man City are obviously a very good option. Got a nice tie against RB Leipzig in the Champions League as well.
Yeah.
They are probably the 3 that I'm looking at the moment. Obviously, it can change later on in January. Another team could come into form, but at the moment, it's looking like Man United, Man City, and Newcastle for me. Yeah. What do you think, James?
It's tricky, isn't it? It is tricky because they're in such good form. It's hard to say to somebody, jump off that Newcastle block.
Yeah.
Even though we'll always say play fixture volume, but with the form, with the amount of clean sheets, I get the hesitancy to say to somebody, yeah, ditch them. Them assets that have just scored you a shed load of points over the last 5 weeks, yeah, just get rid of them.
I think it depends on how many transfers you've got left to a degree. So if you've got a few transfers left, I still think Newcastle have some great fixtures coming up. But I mean, David 87's talking about, he's worried about with Europe on the horizon. Well, I think it's team dependent. So if you've got transfers left, I have got no qualms about to tell somebody bring in some Newcastle defenders for the next 4 and then move them on next month. But but it depends if they've got other priorities in the team. The other way of looking at it is you could say, well, I've missed out, and I'm gonna pile in on United for their fixture count, but that could backfire. Luckily, I don't have this problem because I'm heavy into Newcastle. It's a real tricky one. I'm not sure what I'd do if I only had the one Newcastle defender. It depends on your mini leagues as well. If you're at the top, I think bring in Newcastle. If you're chasing, jump on United, I would say, for the fixture volume. But be careful which United defenders you pick because they've got a lot of choice. Certainly at centre back, although they're playing Luke Shaw there for some reason, which I still can't quite get my head around. But
three centre halves on bench and Luke Shaw.
Who am I to question the mighty Ten Hag?
Andy?
Obviously the few questions are sort of like centre around Newcastle now. What I want you to do is I want you to think about what happened in the first part of the season. Because obviously, in the first part of the season, there was also European fixtures. There were 6 extra games for teams that were in Europe, and Newcastle weren't in Europe. However, I think Matt Woolley, he did a little piece, didn't he, with regards to the best team that you could have had for the beginning of the season. And you wouldn't have needed to make any transfers and you'd have been so many points ahead. Newcastle defenders featured in that team. So Newcastle had less games and yet they still outscored. Yeah. And I don't think they were keeping clean sheets in the manner that they're keeping them now after we've come back from the World Cup back in the first part of the season. So, Newcastle, a perfectly good option, in my opinion, providing they keep doing what they're doing, regardless of whether they're in Europe or not, because they've also got the extra fixtures in the Carabao Cup. So, like I say, they could have another 3 fixtures. And like I say, I've gone up to... I let things fester inside. I've missed out on the Newcastle train in the first part of the season, and that's what shafted me. And it pains me to put Newcastle players in. But I have had Kieran Trippier in because at the beginning of the season I thought he was going to be a fantastic scorer, which he has been. But now I've had to swallow my pride, and I've put in extra Newcastle defenders, even if you miss the train. You've missed the train by a mile, but they're still scoring those points. So you've got to forget about the points that you've missed. Just increase your ownership if that's the way that it looks that things are going. Because at the end of the day, you're going to drop further behind. And yes, Manchester United do have a bigger fixture count, which is why I've increased from 1 Newcastle defender to 2 Newcastle defenders. And I've got 3 Man U, i.e. De Gea, and 2 defenders, Shaw and Varane, in one of my sides. And in other sides, I'll have 3 Newcastle defenders and 2 Man U defence. So at least if you increase your toon population in your side, if they carry on keeping clean sheets, you're not going to drop behind as far. However, if they stop keeping clean sheets, you're not going to drop behind as far anyway, because all the people that you're fighting against have got Newcastle defenders in. So, yeah, put Newcastle defenders in if you want, as far as I'm concerned. And only when they start letting goals in, that's when you think about taking them out.
I just checked, and I keep looking at this because it's quite interesting. The EO, or effective ownership, of Newcastle defence is now almost 3, and that it's rising rapidly. The last time we looked, it was under 2, I think, or it's certainly a lot less. So
it was just above 2.
Just above 2, yeah.
You were probably just about holding rank with 2, which, yeah, I mean, it gets scary, isn't it? if I only had one defender, one Newcastle defender, obviously depending on how many subs you've got, money you've got, and all that stuff, and who you've already got in defence, I think what Andy's done is probably the way I would play it. I'd probably have 2 Newcastle and then go for 3 United and hope maybe Newcastle concede and United keep clean sheets because that'd improve your rank. That's the way I'd play it if I had one. Touching on going into the European fixtures, and obviously it's going to be difficult to jump off the Newcastle players when they're scoring so well. But I have earmarked where I think I'm going to look to jump off. Obviously, depending on rearranged games and other stuff, because once all these rearrangements get put in, we'll have a better idea of fixture count and other things.
Yeah.
But I've earmarked week commencing the 18th of Feb, where Newcastle got Liverpool. They then play a possible game against West Ham or Brighton. Then they play Brighton again. Then they got Man City. And then maybe a possible rearrangement with Brighton. So they got the 3 games they've got in a row there: Liverpool, Brighton, City. They've got a hell of a massive chance of conceding in those games. Liverpool could score against anybody. They might be back on form at that point. Brighton have shown what they're capable of. City, obviously, a City. The team that you look at, if you were to jump off, I think you've got to look at Arsenal there. From the 18th of Feb, they've got Villa, Everton, Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham, Crystal Palace. They've got a bloody lovely run. And then obviously, I think they throw European games in there as well, won't they? At some points, Ben.
March.
Will they throw the European games in that March gap there?
Where about you saying?
Is it March with the European games? 7th of March, 14th of March. Will Arsenal find out their opponent there, won't they?
Yeah, they don't go into Europe until March. Yeah. So you
that's
got
another
you
2
got the
fixtures as well.
playoffs. You got the playoffs first, and then who Man United are playing the playoffs against Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
The last 32, and then in March they'll come into the European games.
So from there, I think obviously they've got fixture count, fixture quality, and they're the best side in the league. So for me, I'll probably be moving off Newcastle there. It's going to be a big decision in my best side, which is sat 27th. It will be a big decision. Which way I go? Am I going to play it safe? I'm going to take the gamble. I'm just going to go with what I've done all season and play fixtures, quality and form, and see how.
I made some notes. Sorry, Tony. I made some notes on the UEFA League draw. And, the draw's on the 24th of February, and the matches will be played on the 9th and the 16th of March.
Brilliant. So it does fit into them 2 weeks, then,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yes, they've got quantity of fixtures. So yeah, hopefully Carl and Goo, David, hopefully that helps you out there going forward. It's gonna be tough, like I say, but these are the decisions that make or break your season. James, I know you put a note in here. You want to have a bit of a chat about James Ward-Prowse?
Oh yes. Well, I just noticed the Saints have got decent fixture count this for the remainder of the month. So they've got 4 fixtures. A lot of teams have got 1 or 2. You've got the likes of Newcastle and Forest with 3. The only other team with 4 fixtures remaining at the moment, at least, is Man United. So, and James Ward-Prowse is on form. Would you boys be tempted for a punt there?
Yeah,
Definitely.
scored 2 at the weekend. Let's say fixture count, fixture quality. It's decent. The guy at the top of the the top of the Dream Team overall leaderboard brought in Ward-Prowse and Che Adams this week.
Che
And
Adams.
he's gone without Haaland. 88
Wow.
points he scored this week.
That's a ballsy move, that is. But, I suppose it makes sense to a degree.
He's
It's
kept
like
it in,
enough-
sorry.
I've-
He did- What's that? Sorry, Andy.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it's like in athletics. I can always remember this is how the best players in Dream Team play. It's a bit like a 100-meter sprint. You have to go on the B of the bang.
Yeah.
If the bang goes before you start running, then you've already missed it. And maybe that's his idea. He's probably spotted that Haaland is going through a little bit of a lean spell, and he's jumping onto a team which James has just pointed out, Southampton, Ward-Prowse and Che Adams. And Ward-Prowse has just got a couple of goals, so it's obviously probably solidified his position at the moment, hasn't it? Just those 2 goals.
Yeah.
Well, he's nailed in that team. And he is playing further forward than he normally does. And he is a baller. I just think if he's playing as a number 10, he's on penalties. We know he's on most free kicks, if not 99% of them, for obvious reasons. He might be worth a shot with 4 fixtures over. If you've got a player playing 1 fixture, would you take Ward-Prowse for 4 fixtures? I'd be tempted. Certainly worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep, definitely.
He's so annoying though, because I had Ward-Prowse in some teams from the restart because of the Carabao Cup fixture against Lincoln, and he got nothing against Lincoln. So I think I sold him straight away, and then he scored against Brighton in the next game, and I was like, oh god. And then I think Patrick, DT Patrick in the Discord, he was big on Ward-Prowse before the restart, and he had him in. I don't know if he carried on with him, but it was just I had him in and I took him out because I think he was a bit dearer than 4 million at the point when I had him, so I needed the money to bring some of the bit more informed players in. But now he's one of the informed players. Did that goal? The first goal he scored against Everton. It reminded me of a Gerrard goal. I can't remember who he scored against, but it was very similar. Where he someone went to tackle him and he's cut inside with the ball, and then he just scored with the outside of his boot into the corner. Just like a late run into the box. Just reminded me of a Gerrard style goal. Why has he not been played in that position before? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
One point that I'd like to make, gents, is Ward-Prowse is 4 million.
Yeah.
There's 2 players. Ward-Prowse he's doing very well. He's getting an average of 6 points a game since the World Cup finished. You've got Odegaard that's getting 8.7 points per game since the World Cup's finished, and Odegaard is cheaper than Ward-Prowse by 0.6 million, isn't he? And they've also got Solly March, who's 8.5 points on average per game since the World Cup finished, and he's 1.4 million cheaper. That was the only thing, but obviously, because he's got more fixtures, you'd probably expect he's got more of an upside than the other guys. So yeah, it's a good punt if you want to make it, but it's an expensive one because he's obviously 4 million, and there's other players that are performing better than he is that are cheaper than him at the moment.
I think James is going to be putting him in his team with his 5 transfers.
I'm certainly thinking about it. He's changed position. You can't ignore that. If he continues in that position, I don't see why he shouldn't. Then I think He's only a short-term pick, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You're not going to go into the European fixtures with Ward-Prowse in your team, but they've got 4-1 over some sides. So I just thought it was worth pointing it out.
Yeah, it's just amazing how a week can change in football. Teams' fortunes in football. Southampton were looking
definitely.
down
Yeah.
and out, weren't they, last week? And then they've had 3 good results in a week, and now they're back on the menu.
Let's not forget they've got a new manager as well, Nathan Jones, who used to be the Luton Town manager. He plays a direct form of football, which is kind of a little bit different to how Southampton were playing before. But yeah, obviously Ward-Prowse is one of the boys that he has up front to hoof the ball up to. So yeah.
Yeah, looking good for him. He looks like a good option. Odegaard and Ward-Prowse probably look better options than these City lads at minute. They're struggling. Foden. Grealish came on and got a goal, didn't he? Doesn't mean much, but yeah. Talking about the Newcastle blocks, I watched that penalty live. That were unreal. When he slipped and I thought he put it wide, and I'm like, oh shit, it's gone in. Turn around and then blow the free kick. I'm like, what's happened here? Are they retaking it? What's going on? Unbelievable. What a charmed life the Newcastle clean sheets are living.
Yeah. That was very unlucky. For that not to be a goal, that was quite unlucky because it's sort of like his standing foot. That's what he slipped on, and the ball sort of like just clipped it, didn't it?
Yeah. He did change the direction of the ball though as well.
Yeah.
Because he was going for over corner. But yeah, very unlucky.
I was buzzing with that because I've got my best team's got 5 Newcastle defenders with the goalkeeper. So that's got me up to 1.9k now. My best team.
Happy days.
Very good.
Yep.
Happy days. Big decisions ahead. Right, the mini leagues. Got 3 now to go through. James, let's go through the Dream Team Tonic Cash League top 10.
Yep. In 10th, we've got Tom Brindley. 9th, Leo Reed. 10th, Dan Bartlam. 7th, Andy Allett. 6th, Tom Brindley. 5th, Lee Watson. 4th, Stephen Williams. 3rd, Andy Allett. 2nd, Simon Davis. And at the top still, with a fairly generous lead, we have Anthony Sutcliffe.
It's in.
Hey.
Still there.
Go on, lad.
Still there. 27th overall now. 660th coming back after the break. Climb back into contention, so hopefully I can keep that up.
I'll get knocked down and I'll get up again.
Yeah, that's it, mate.
Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
Chumbawamba.
They're from Burnley, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Forget them
Are
then.
they? Yeah, I don't like Chumbawamba.
I think the guests should do the next one.
I think the guest is going to have to do the next one, Andy.
Oh, there's no problem me doing any of them because I'm not in the top 10 of any of the leagues yet. However, I am feeling a little bit confident now that things are starting to go well again. So, the second chance Tonic Cash League. In 10th place, you've got Andrew Haynes. In 9th place, you've got Tom Brindley. Joint 9th place, Seth Osborne. In 8th place, the one and only James Fricker.
Finally, I've had my name read out on the podcast.
What's that stand for? BATB.
Big at the back.
There ain't no big at the back this year, mate.
That's what the side started off as. That was my big at the back team, not my BATB. Oh no, I've given up my secret code. Damn.
We've got 2 teams in joint 6th place. Andrew Haynes again. And Andrew Haynes again. He's doing very well. In 5th place, we've got Phil Russo. In 4th place, Gary Paul. In 2nd place, joint 2nd place, Anthony Sutcliffe is joint second place with Anthony Sutcliffe. And top of the shop, AC/DC, Ben Lee.
Get
Hey!
it.
Hey!
You're on a highway to hell there, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
You know it, late riser. Second chance. Dream Team Tonic trio at the top as well.
It is. Second chance league, very closely matched, all those sides. To be fair, I think there's a lot of Newcastle blocks in there.
Yeah, that's my team with 5 Newcastle defenders in.
We'll see who's the bravest to jump off first. Right, the DT Tonic Patron League. In 10th, we've got Amandi Tatler. In 9th, we've got Wayne Foster Crouch. In 8th, we've got Peter Franklin. In 7th, Nicholas Steetham. 6th, Mark McKee. 5th, Tom Brindley. 4th, Stephen Broughton. 3rd, John Mellier. 2nd, Jake Bevan. And top of the shop, with a 50-point lead, is Lee Uten. Well done, Lee.
Well done.
Nice lead there. Just so you know, Andy touched on it earlier, I forgot to mention, Woolies Waffle. He mentioned in an article, that's exclusive to the Patreon. If you do want to join the Patreon, get involved in the Discord, get yourselves across to patreon.com/Dream Team Tonic. Get yourself signed up, get yourself involved. There's obviously articles, early access to the pod, and a brilliant Discord for top managers. Just a big shout out for our 2 newest patrons, Peter McIntosh and Mac Naylor. Thanks very much for your support. Thanks to all the patrons for the support. We really appreciate it. Andy?
Yeah.
It's our pleasure to have you on, mate, as always.
Oh,
You're a top guest, top guy.
Thank you very much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Good luck for the rest of the season, mate. I'm sure we'll hear from you before the end. So, yeah. Cheers, mate. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Andy.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers, Ben. Thanks a lot.
See you later.